Welcome back to the Language of Business. We're headed to Pembroke, Massachusetts to visit with Bay State IT. They offer services they believe are better than what you'll get in most in-house IT departments. They're operated right out of this house, and most of the work can be done remotely, so you don't even have to leave your office in order to get your computer fixed. Their CEO and founder is Sean Sanker. And Sean, welcome.
Thank you.
To the Language of Business.
Thank you.
So what services would an IT department provide that you couldn't be able to match?
So I think we pride ourselves on being able to provide full services, whether it be a network guy, a server guy, or a desktop guy. The issue is whether or not you can warrant having a full-time guy on staff. A lot of companies we do are biotech companies. When they start up, they've got 3 or 4 people. They don't need an IT guy. They need someone to just come in, set up the servers, set up the network, set up a few desktops for them. And that'd be crazy to have a full-time guy to do that. He'd be bored to tears. So we come in, we'll do all that work, and then we set up, and do as needed after that for desktop support. They want to add another server, they call us in, and we take care of it.
For the benefit of our viewers, what is a network guy and what is a Unix guy?
Network guy would be the guy that sets up your firewall. He's setting up your network switches, determines how the equipment talks to each other, sets up your VPN. If you want to be able to work from home, if you have multiple locations that you want to connect securely as if you're on the same network, he's going to configure that stuff. The Unix guy is a guy that will come in and he'll do our work on, say, Ubuntu or Fedora or Red Hat servers. He'll also do our database work. So, the likelihood of you needing a full-time guy that's going to do that is very, very low. Unless you're a huge company, 200 or 300 people, you're just not going to need a dedicated database guy. So almost everyone's going to contract out your database guy, even your Unix admin.
So if network and Unix isn't full-time, what do most of your staff do?
Most of my staff are desktop support. So we have 2 guys that are full-time server guys, but they will do a lot of desktop support as well. Inevitably, there's going to be someone that's going to say, hey, my Outlook's not working today, or gee, I'm not quite getting the wireless signal I should be getting. And one of the guys that is doing a server support call that day will help out. So, most of the guys that are in IT, they start out doing desktop support, and then they start learning more and more server stuff. They graduate, so they have those desktop skills, but they now, graduate and they like to do the server stuff. It's more interesting probably to do the server support than how many times you're going to reset someone's Outlook password, before you want to shoot yourself.
How do you tend to retain your staff, especially if they've been working with one of your clients who might have been a biotech startup? Now they're 6-9 months into it. What is the temptation to not work for that company full-time as opposed to staying with you?
We have a clause in our contracts that we sign where the clients can't hire those guys away. We've had that happen in the past, and we've got contracts now where clients can't do that because that's a serious temptation, right? Their client really likes working with this technician, and gee, wouldn't we like to have him full-time? We could pay him maybe $70 grand a year instead of paying Bay State IT X dollars per hour. We incentivize our clients not to do that by writing into the contract that they can't do that. For our technicians, we don't pay any of our technicians minimum wage, so they're all making a good amount of money. And I like to think of myself as a good boss, and they like working for us. So.
What do you do if you run into problems you can't fix?
Generally, the problems that we can't fix would be a situation where we're going to be calling the vendor. So, for instance, a Microsoft Server problem, you can get a Microsoft Server engineer on the phone. Now, granted, you have to pay per service call for that. But if there's something that we can't fix, we're usually calling the hardware vendor or the software vendor.
In your business, did you ever hire a consultant?
We've run our business from day one off of QuickBooks for Mac. And in the beginning, we didn't know how to use QuickBooks. I'm a computer guy that knows how to use the operating system. I know a lot about the hardware. I know how to install an operating system. But as far as setting up billing and setting up the appropriate categories where expenses have to go in, I had no idea. So I had to hire a consultant for that, and he was able to train us on how to do that. And then we'd have periodic visits to make sure that we were doing the right thing.
If you have to purchase software products or pay for service calls or even hardware products, is that something you absorb, or is that something that's automatically passed on to the client?
If we have to pay for software in the form of, say, data recovery, do data recovery, that's a software that we'll purchase, and that's just built into the cost of doing business. If we're purchasing software that's going to go on the client machines, clearly we're passing that cost on to the business that we're working for. Realistically, there's not too much that we have to buy, except for maybe our remote control software that we pay a yearly fee for that, and that's just built into the business. It's not too much money. We're talking about maybe a couple $1,000s a year for that remote control software.
Help us describe to our viewers what remote really means. Outside of hardware repair, can everything be done remotely, or is there some stuff that you need to be there in person for?
There are some things that we'll do remotely. If there are a lot of things that pile up, we'll usually send someone on site because we will like to get them on site to, go from Jim to Jane to Sally to take care of all the issues. It's a little easier than trying to call the user, get a remote session started if we're going to work for 4 or 5 people in the organization that day. But for simple things, resetting a password, helping a user find a button that they can't seem to find. I can't tell you how many times you say, no, click there. Well, do you see up there? And if I can take over your mouse, I'm able to show you very quickly, oh yeah, here's the checkbox that you were missing to check.
How would you differentiate Bay State IT from other companies that are doing similar things, also as part-time IT consultants?
I like to think that we've chosen technicians in the industry that are very personable. So you get a lot of people that they want to shove their IT perspective and their rules down your throat. Clients don't really want to work with someone that's making them do something that maybe they don't want to do. You can gently prod them, you can give them best practices, and then work with them on a compromise of how they want to work in their own environment.
What are your 3 to 5 year goals for Bay State IT as the CEO and founder?
We've just added a 5th full-time employee. Goal would be to get up to about 10 people, I would say, in about 5 years, and to grow the business. So my son's about 16. He's expressed interest in taking over, once I get to retirement age. So growing the business to a point where he'd be able to take over and, have a nice flourishing business.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Sean Sanker, CEO and founder of Bay State IT here in Pembroke, Massachusetts. You hear the term business communication all the time, but what does it mean to be truly effective? Preparing yourself for an important meeting, writing an exceptionally good PowerPoint presentation, or learning to express yourself well in a foreign language? We'll find out on the next episode of The Language of Business.